Hey guys, so today I wanted to film my last installment of reacting to Petco care guides. If you guys enjoyed these and you want me to continue with the PetSmart ones, definitely let me know. Those are a little harder for me to get, but I can run down there and grab them all if you want to see it. Today I'm going to be going over Crested Gecko and Leopard Gecko care guides. So far I have done Ferret, which I thought those actually weren't that bad. And I've also done no, I didn't. That was a lie. I started out with a lie. I did Hamster, Dwarf Hamster, and Mouse, and those are what they're called. That's not what I'm calling them. I was not too impressed with the rodent care guides. If you'd like to see those, I will leave them linked in the description below, as well as my ferret ones. But today we're going over the reptile ones. These are kind of basic, like, starter reptiles that Petco sells. I don't do snakes, so I don't have, I'm not going to grab one for an animal I don't have. I haven't seen any, like, frog care guides or anything, so whenever I see a care guide of an animal I have and I know about, I grab it. And these are the two reptile ones I found. So we are going to go over these two today. I'm hoping they are not like the rodent ones where it's just like copy and pasted and like one little word changed, because these are completely, like, not saying Syrian and dwarf hamsters care is like the same. However, Crested Gecko and Leopard Gecko care is literally like lava and ice. So let's jump right in. Let's start with Leopard Gecko, because I had Leopard Geckos first, so why not? Leopard Geckos are available in a variety of morphs, including leucistic, high yellow, and albino. Unlike other geckos, leopard geckos have movable eyelids. That's kind of a weird way to phrase that, but that is true. Adult size 6 to 9 inches. I have never seen an adult leopard gecko that's only 6 inches, unless we're not counting the tail. But about 9 inches, that sounds pretty good. Average lifespan 20 years with proper care. Diet insectivore. They are insectivores. The 20-year thing, I have heard a lot of leopard geckos can. However, I don't know if we should consider that average, especially from like Petco. I don't know. But we'll keep going. I don't even know how long Petco's been around. Like, have they sold leopard geckos that long? Can they prove that their leopard geckos can live that long? Probably not. All right. A well-balanced leopard gecko diet consists of insects, including crickets, small mealworms, and waxworms. No, don't use waxworms as a staple. That's like a treat. Those are super fatty. Use gut-loaded, recently fed crickets, no larger than the space between your gecko's eyes. That is true. I would also add dubia roaches to that list. My leopard geckos love dubia roaches, and they are very good for them. But keeping a well-rounded meal is good. I also do feed hornworms about once a month, but that's more like for a treat. They're not horrible. They're just pretty high in calcium. It says, feeding, things to remember when feeding your leopard gecko. Fresh, clean, chlorine-free water should be available at all times. It's very true. You need to make sure you use ReptiSafe in your reptiles' water. Feed daily. I don't think that's true. I feed my leopard geckos every 3 days. They're all adults, and that's just how often I feed them. I feed them until they stop eating, and then I don't feed them for 2 days. That's just like a normal schedule. And then sprinkle food with calcium, supplement daily, and a multivitamin once or twice a week. I don't do it. I don't sprinkle it every single time. I sprinkle every other feeding. And then I also leave calcium in the tank all the time. Housing, appropriately sized habitat with secure cover. A 10 or 20 gallon tank is recommended for one leopard gecko. Absolutely not. Maybe a 20 gallon long, because they need vertical space. They need horizontal space. but definitely not a 10-gallon for an adult. That's way too small. You will not be able to fit all of their necessities in there. My leopard geckos are in 40-gallon breeders, front opening ones, and they use every inch of the space in those tanks. Habitat: provide multiple hiding areas with non-toxic plants, branches, logs, and cork. Maintain below 50% humidity. I agree with all of that. I don't know how you're gonna fit all that in a 10-gallon tank, Petco. Substrate: use sani chips, calcium sand, or terrarium carpet. I would not use a single one of those things listed. I use Terra Sahara from BioDude. If you're experienced and know what to look out for and your gecko's pretty good with hunting, I feed in bowls, so that helps like the hunting situation. And then Damon, my kind of erratic eater, I have a enclosure tour of him. I have a big open spot with just non-adhesive shelf liner. Also paper towels is a good option, as well as non-adhesive shelf liner. Don't use any of the things Petco's suggesting though. Temperature gradient: 95 for the warm end basking area and 78 to 88 for the cool end. I actually have if you're using a loose substrate, you'll want to set it a couple degrees higher. I have my warm end set to 92, which means the actual temperature going through is a little bit lower than that. They were not using it when it was set too high. It was burning them. So I would not set it that high, especially if it's underbelly heating, which is what I'm talking about. Yeah, you don't want to burn your animal. And always with heating, use a thermostat. Lighting: 10 to 12 hours of light per day is required. They do not require UVB lighting. I think they benefit from UVB lighting. I don't have special like bulbs besides my UVB bulbs, and I have them on a timer. Do not house 2 or more male leopard geckos together, and do not house different reptile species together. I don't know why they had to specify male. Don't house 2 or more leopard geckos at all together. Unless you're breeding, which if you are getting your information from a Petco care guide, you should not be breeding your animals. Normal behavior: they're nocturnal. I'm pretty sure they're actually crepuscular, which means they're most active during dusk and dawn. They hide under rocks or burrow into the sand during the day. Again, don't use sand, especially not calcium sand, because it'll just entice them to lick it, and then they'll eat the sand, which we're not doing. Leopard geckos will eat their skin when shedding. That's true. That's like one of the best parts. You don't have to go in there and pick up their skin. Keep handling to a minimum, as overhandling can stress them out. This is actually one of the few situations when I disagree. I think if your animal is used to handling, I mean, I'm not saying take it out for hours and hours on end, but getting it used to you and being able to interact with it, leopard geckos are pretty good about it. One of my leopard geckos, Dexter, absolutely hates me. He's hated me since the second he laid eyes on me. That's fine. I don't bother him because it does stress him out a lot. However, Smidge, Bellamy, and Damon all do tolerate handling. It's not like I take them out for hours and hours a day, but once a week or so I will take them out just to remind them that sometimes we get picked up. Never grab a leopard gecko by his tail, as they may drop their tail. Yeah, but also don't grab any animal by its tail. That's rude. Habitat maintenance: thoroughly clean and disinfect the habitat once a week. Place leopard gecko in secure tank. Scrub tank and furnishings. Again, with this bleach solution, I wouldn't use bleach around any animal. Maybe water, vinegar solution, or some sort of specific animal safe disinfectant that pet stores sell. Leopard geckos regularly shed their skin, ensuring humidity of habitats to appropriate level to allow proper shedding. To facilitate shedding, provide a shed box or hide box with sphagnum moss that will aid in the shedding process. I agree, you don't want to keep their whole enclosure humid because they are not a tropical species. However, including a little extra humidity in one designated area when they're about to shed, which you can tell when a leopard gecko is about to shed, they turn pasty, like pale. Giving it a little spritz doesn't hurt anything. And signs of a healthy animal: active and alert, clear eyes, body and tail are filled out, healthy skin, clear nose and vent, eats regularly. These red flags and common health issues I don't really want to go over. For all of them, I haven't really been going over them. If your animal is acting weird, please take them to the vet. I don't think Petco has any business trying to tell you certain things either, and I don't have any business doing it either. I'm not a vet. If your animal is acting weird or has something unusual looking going on about them, please take them to the vet. By taking in the animal, you agree to take care of it, and that is part of taking care of it. If you want to know how much vet costs can cost, I have a whole video on how much I paid in vet bills in 2020. I will leave that linked in the description below. Shopping list. So, appropriate size habitat. We already know what Petco thinks is appropriate. 10 gallons. They're wrong. Substrate. They also are wrong about the substrate. Moss. I don't think moss is necessary. If you have the right kind of substrate, giving it a spritz will raise humidity, so you don't need anything special. A water dish. Yes. A mealworm dish. Yes. I love mealworm dishes because mealworms sneak away and then it keeps their food all in one area. You can see how much they ate. There's no worry about them eating their substrate and getting impacted. They know where to come when it's time to eat. Like, they're pretty smart. Hideaway place, climbing decor, plants, heat light, heat fixture, under heater tank. Yeah, I guess one or the other. The one downside is unless you're using like a ceramic heat emitter or deep heat projector, a lot of heat lamps have light and you need to keep the heat all the time, but you also don't want to have the light all the time. So I use a heat mat. It's easiest. I do want to try a deep heat projector with one of my geckos as an experiment and see if they have exhibited any more natural behavior, but I haven't got around to doing that yet. Vitamin supplement, calcium supplement, yes, with D3, without D3, and a multivitamin. I have Calcium Plus by Repashy that I use, and then I also provide a little calcium dish in their enclosures all the time. A cricket keeper, cricket food, cricket quencher, all of those I'm gonna go big fat no. I go to the pet store every other day to get crickets because I feel like I waste so much money trying to keep crickets that I would rather drive to the pet store every day or every other day. A thermometer, yes. A humidity gauge, yes, I guess. And a thermostat, which is not on here. So you do need a thermostat. However, you don't need a book about leopard geckos. I don't know why this is on the bottom of every one of their care guides. So, oh, I missed something on the front. Will reach adult size in 9 to 12 months under ideal conditions. Upgrade your habitat size as your reptile grows. That's actually kind of good information. However, I'm pretty sure in here it says 10 to 20 gallons is recommended for one leopard gecko. Again, if you're going with 20 gallons, get a 20-gallon long because they don't need the height. So, how was this? There was good information. There was also pretty bad information. I would never suggest someone go for a Petco care guide for any of their animal care advice needs. But there's that. Now we'll go for the Crested Gecko one. Crested geckos, also known as eyelash geckos, were thought to be extinct until 1994, when several relatively large thriving populations were found on the islands of New Caledonia. So they've only been in the pet trade about 27 years. Also, who calls them eyelash geckos? Nobody. But yeah, they are from New Caledonia. Average adult size 5 to 8 inches. Average lifespan 5 to 10 years. I would say if you're taking really good care of your animal and you get it from a reputable place, more like 7 to 10 years seems good. This is the first one that I actually thought a longer lifespan, but all right. let's jump right in. So, well-balanced Crested Gecko diet. Yes. However, it doesn't have a brand, and that's probably because Petco doesn't sell the two best brands, Repashy and Pangea. This powder can also be used to dust insects. No, don't do that. Just use calcium. As a treat, provide a variety of insects, including gut-loaded, fed regularly, crickets, mealworms, and waxworms. I do feed my Crested Geckos and my Gargoyle Gecko mealworms every once in a while. They absolutely love mealworms. Again, I wouldn't feed waxworms at all. They don't necessarily need insects, and they're just bad for them. And then crickets, I guess you could for fun. I don't. The only animals I give crickets to are my Tokay Gecko and my frogs. Every once in a while, I'll throw a small one into Dexter's tank because he really likes the chase, but he's also kind of lazy. Sweet baby foods such as peats, banana, apricot can be mixed in with Crested Gecko diet and offered as a treat. Don't do that. That's too much sugar. Sometimes I'll give a little bit of banana, but I'm talking like once every 6 months. Like not very often. Remember when feeding your Crested Gecko, they need clean, fresh, chlorine-free water available at all times. I don't use water dishes in my Crested Gecko enclosures. I miss twice a day, and they just lick the dew off the walls. Same with my Gargoyle Gecko. Commercial feeding every night. Remove the uneaten food in the morning. I actually don't do that. I feed my, I'm just going to say New Caledonian Geckos. I feed them every other day, and I leave the food in there until I clean it. It stays moist enough. And by the second night feeding, it's time to be thrown out. But a lot of people do that. It's not just me, so. Insects should be given at night 2 to 3 times weekly. I actually only give mealworms, but I only give them about once a week, and just like a couple as a treat in addition to. I don't make it a habit for them to only eat them. Sprinkle insects with calcium. Yes, I do dust my insects like I talked about with the Leopard Gecko. Size. Okay, whoa. Is this real right now? Housing. Size. Appropriately sized glass or plastic habitat with secure cover. Height is more important than floor space. Yeah. And how big? Habitat. Provide multiple branches for climbing and shelter to hide live non-toxic plants are also recommended. Maintain 60 to 80% humidity by misting as needed every day. Like I said, I mist twice a day. You want to have a dry off period in between. But the peak should be right about 80 during those 2 misting times. Substrate, use a mulch such as cocoa fiber, dampened sphagnum moss, or bark. I wouldn't use any of those things. Actually, sphagnum moss is okay, but I mix it in with Terra Fauna from Biodude. I use all of Biodude's substrates for all of my amphibians and reptiles. Temperature daytime between 75 and 82. I would not get my Crested Geckos up to 82. That's a little bit high. And then nighttime they can drop down to about 68. That's totally fine. Recommended radiant heat. Use a low wattage heat lamp if necessary. Yes, if you're going to drop below about 68, probably use some sort of heating, maybe a heat pad towards the bottom so they can get away from it if necessary. Provide 10 to 12 hours of light a day. An incandescent day bulb is needed for basking area. If not, using a ceramic heat emitter or nocturnal incandescent bulb. I don't use any external heating. My house never drops low enough. But I guess it depends on what enclosure you're using. Also, some people do use UVB with their Crested Geckos. I don't think UVB can harm any animal. I personally don't use UVB because I use conversion kits. So all of my New Caledonian Geckos are in 29-gallon conversion kit tanks with I Heart Gecko fronts. Keep only one male Crested Gecko per enclosure and do not house with different reptile species. Yes, and also only keep one Crested Gecko for enclosure at all. Like I said, unless you're breeding, which if you're using a Petco gear guide to get your information, you should not be breeding. Like, let's not play with lives here. Normal behavior, they're nocturnal, active at night. Branch on feeding nights will get up really early. On non-feeding nights, she will stay awake, or she'll stay asleep until after I go to bed. And Alark almost always hides. He comes out on mealworm nights. I feel like he just knows, like, he knows that he gets mealworm, so he'll come out. But exceptional leapers, they will jump from one perch to the next like frogs. They will tolerate gentle handling. Rough handling will stress your gecko out, and they might drop their tail, which will not grow back. Crested geckos lick their eyeballs to moisten them. Yep, they do. Habitat maintenance, thoroughly clean and disinfect. Oh, by the way, I think leopard geckos are easier to handle than crested geckos, or Branch just doesn't like me that much. Alark tolerates it a little more, but he's not a crested gecko, so. We're talking about the same cleaning, same thing I said before. I would stay away from bleach. Crested geckos regularly shed their skin, ensure humidity of habitat to appropriate level. Again, if you are misting twice a day, it should be high enough that you don't need to provide an extra like shed box or hide box. So all of my New Caledonian geckos shed just fine without having any extra boxes, and I miss twice a day. Do not be surprised to see a crested gecko eating their shedding skin. Yep, munch it right up. Signs of a healthy animal. Active, interested in humans. That actually is true. I think Branch has a crush on me. Clear eyes, body and tail are filled out. Oh, their tail doesn't really get like big like a leopard gecko tail. But okay. Healthy skin, clear nose and vent, and eats regularly. Clearly they copy and pasted that. Same situation at the bottom here. If your animal is not acting normal, please take it to the veterinarian for the best possible care. Let's not self-diagnose here, people. Shopping list. I'm gonna grab this just to compare, see if we actually have literally the exact same list here. Like actually the exact same list. So I'm not even gonna go over it. You already know my thoughts on that. So those are the Leopard Gecko and Crested Gecko Petco care guides. If you'd like my own personal care guide, please let me know, and I will start doing start putting that together with like housing requirements and dietary requirements and all that jazz. I can do all of that. So let me know. If you want to see my other care guides, I will leave them linked, or no, if you want to see my other reviewing care guides, I will leave it linked in the description below. And until next time, I hope you have a great day. Bye!